resources, inspiring interviews, business practices, and practical advice to take your art career to the next level. Join Sergio Gomez in today's Artist Next Level and get ready to take control of your career.
Well, hello, my Next Level friends. Sergio Gomez here, welcoming you to a brand new episode of the Artist Next Level podcast. I am very happy that you are here with me today. And my friends, I have such a great episode to share with you today. It's part of my series that I've been doing. This is the third one and last one that came about my post that I had on Instagram. So if you have no idea what I'm talking about, just wait. You're in for a big surprise. If you listen to the previous two episodes, I think you will enjoy this one as well. Well, before I go and introduce you my guest today, Marci Marsden, I want to also tell you about the webinar that we're doing right now once a week, and it's just been pretty awesome, pretty fun to share with artists from around the world through this webinar. It's a live webinar called the Emerging Artist Success Blueprint: How to Start, Reset, or Unstock Your Art Career by Following a Simple Plan Without Feeling Frustrated or Defeated. So if you are an emerging artist listening to this podcast, and if you have not taken my Emerging Artist Success Blueprint free webinar, my friend, you are missing on a lot of great information. If you are ready for this, if you are ready to take your art career to the next level, what you want to do is sign up for it. It's totally free. We're doing it once a week, and it is pretty awesome. Very, very awesome. Super excited with so many artists from around the world who have taken this webinar. And my friend, to sign up, all you have to do is go to our website, which you will find it at www.theartistnextlevel.com/emerging blueprint. Okay, super easy. All you gotta do is type www.theartistnextlevel.com/emerging blueprint. And that's it, my friend. That's all you gotta do. Sign up as soon as you can, because it's going to really help you out, advance your art career in the areas that you need to go next. So I look forward to having you there, and it's going to be pretty cool. Well, my friend, today I want to introduce you to Marci Marsden. Marci is a Portland-based artist. Her earliest creative expression was in modern dance, but when diagnosed with an autoimmune disease at age 19, she was forced to find other outlets to explore her creative spirit. She spent time with working in clay. She co-designed furniture pieces alongside her ex-husband. She also designed and made one-off fashion pieces using vintage fabric. But it wasn't until deep challenges that she came to painting. In the last several years, her autoimmune disease began to have physical manifestations, resulting in many surgeries and in turn limiting the use of her hands. It can be challenging for her some days to open jars, for example, or button her coat. But the one thing that it has not taken from her is her creative spirit. In a lot of ways, it has actually brought her back to her art. No matter the physical limitations that she has experienced, her creativity remains intact. And in many ways, it has also given her strength. And my friend, I am super happy and excited to share with you my conversation with Marci Marsden. Hi, Marci. How are you today?
I'm doing good. I'm doing really well. Thank you.
Awesome. I want to welcome you to the Artist Next Level podcast. Super happy that we can be here together having this conversation. And you are in the state of you're in the city of Portland. I'm here in Chicago, and it's a beautiful day here for us. How is it for you over there?
It is actually a beautiful day. It's sunny out. Just a few clouds. It's going to be, I believe, around 75. So I'm sitting in my studio, and I have the door opened, and there's a slight breeze. It's beautiful.
Great. So it's like the perfect time for a great conversation. So, yeah. Marci, are you ready to take us to the next level with your story?
I am.
Awesome. Very cool. Well, first of all, I kind of to give a little bit of the backstory, why we're doing this podcast is because this is part of the series that I started a couple of weeks ago with the idea of sharing artist stories. And kind of it all started with a post I did on Instagram, actually a few weeks ago, where I shared my story, and then I had a lot of comments on that, and it was really fun. And then after that, the following week, I did another post where I was asking, the stories of different artists. And Marci, you were kind enough to share a little bit of your story in that Instagram post through your comment. And it was fascinating. It was really awesome. I think it will be really inspiring if we can hear a little bit of that story. And to help our friends here in the Next Level too. These are stories of resilience, stories of really encouragement, and how art can happen in many ways and in many forms and under many circumstances. And that's really what this podcast is all about. So, Marci, we're looking to hear from you and be inspired by your words. So I'm really looking forward to this. But
well, thank you so much. Thank you very much.
Not a problem. But Marci, before we actually talk about the story, why don't you tell us a little bit about your art? Let's start with your art this time. Let us know, what is it that you make? What's your primary medium? And how do you describe the work that you do?
Well, that's interesting. So, I have done art or been creative in many ways all my life. That's the artist story. My first love was dance. And when I was unable to do that, I started working with ceramics in my 20s. And then I also had a business with my ex-husband doing furniture design and custom metalwork, and also clothing, vintage clothing. I did that for a while, and I started doing, probably 5 or 6 years ago, I started making landscapes using some of the old vintage fabric that I would find when I was out doing my vintage clothing. And so that's where I started many years ago, making these landscapes. And so I have children, and I left that for a while. And in the last couple of years, I was feeling the need to start creating again. And so I decided to start creating again doing the vintage fabric. But it started evolving into more of a mixed media. So I was using mixed media paper, acrylics, vintage fabric to make landscapes. And also I started doing series using vessels and floral sort of art. But then it just evolved, and I let it. And now probably for the last 8, 9, 10 months, I've been working mostly with acrylics, and I started doing abstract.
Which I have right in front of me in your Instagram, looking at that, and there's a beautiful abstract pieces, yeah?
Yeah, so it just kind of obviously naturally evolved, and I was feeling inspired by it, and I just kept going there, and so that's really what I've been doing recently.
Wonderful.
So
and they seem to be
fluid acrylics. So,
gotcha.
Yeah.
And they seem to be very layered, right? There's a lot of layers of mark making and also color and painting. I love that surface. And there also, I also see some nature forms, right? Like plants and sometimes flower.
A little floral in there. Yeah, it's definitely layered. That's my thing.
Awesome. Well, they're really nice. And I love that transition, because really that you have done a lot of mediums, from furniture to textile to painting and drawing and all those things. So that is really good. So let's dive into a little bit of your story. Tell us, where you grew up and how did you decide to become an artist?
Well, I grew up in Portland, Oregon, and like I said, I've been creative most of my life, and usually I've done projects with other people. 30 years ago, about 30 years ago, I was diagnosed with an autoimmune disease, which definitely changed the trajectory of my life. Like I said, I was a dancer, and then during this time, and I was 19, and I was only a year out of high school.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So it really, it changed the trajectory. I had big plans, and then I had to change those plans. And but my life was still great, and I was in the creative field in many endeavors, but never sort of my own thing, And it ebbed and flowed, and I had jobs, and then I had children.
Mm-hmm.
And then about 10 years ago, my autoimmune disease started affecting my hands.
Okay.
And so I started losing the use of my hands a little bit, and they started kind of curling up on themselves. And so I ended up having my fingers fused in order to keep them sort of at a useful position.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that has limited me. It has limited me in a lot of things, and what I can do for a living,
Right.
But I started realizing that the one thing that has kept, even though I've lost, some physical abilities, the one thing I haven't lost is my creativity, and that has always stuck with me. So I feel like in the last year or two, I came back to it, and it's really been fulfilled my life.
I see. No, that's amazing. That's an amazing story. And so tell me a little bit about, that transition when you kind of began to experience, the difficulties with the making of things, and particularly as we're talking about art. Did you at any point kind of thought, well, maybe this, continuing making art is not going to be kind of like the thing I will continue doing, or because we all have like mindset also, and voices that come to our heads, right, when things happen in our lives. So what was that for you, if you can share a little bit of that moment? Because there might be other artists who right now, as they're listening to this podcast, who may be in a situation of their own, right, where something happens in life, and then some of the questions start to come in, like, well, will I be able to continue doing this? Maybe first, like today I did a post about studios, like, you don't need really a big studio. You can make art anywhere. And there's so many artists commenting on that today on my Instagram about, some artists say, well, all I have is just a little table in the kitchen, or all I have is just a little notepad, and that's what I'm doing because this is the season in life where I am right now. And it's just so amazing, right? How we find, even in those imperfect moments, the resilience to move forward. So tell us a little bit about in your situation, as you began to experience this illness and how it started to affect you. What did you do to transition into the work that you're doing now?
Right. So I think, like I said, I've always been creative, and I've always worked with other people, and I let me think about how to put this. I don't think that I gave myself enough credit as a creative or an artist years ago, and because of my illness, I felt like I couldn't trust my body. I couldn't trust myself. Therefore, I couldn't commit or produce art. And it wasn't. I really believe that in the last few years, it's actually my disability that has allowed me to become an artist and to call myself an artist. I think prior to that, I was like thinking about other things I needed to do for a job, or how am I going to make money? And now I've come to this place where I'm limited in my ability to do certain things, but I'm not. But it doesn't limit my art, and so therefore my art has become stronger.
That's amazing. That's wonderful, and that's one of the things that, about the art making process, that the impetus that we have in the inside, right? The spirit of it is still there and still around. And even though the voices might come into our head like, oh, will this work?
Yeah.
Might not. But, when you find a way, and you find a way to make it work, even under the circumstances, it could actually become the thing that completely sends you in a new trajectory, that becomes like something that flourishes in a beautiful way. And out of that situation comes something amazing, something beautiful. which perhaps you would have never arrived at, unless you had gone through that. And, as I see your art and what you're making right now is so beautiful layer. All the history of those layers is like the unveiling each layer of our lives, right, as we go through it.
Well, and that's, I was going to say that exact same thing. I mean, I really feel like these layers are like, some of them are accidents, and some of them are intentional, and some of them you want to rub away, and that's just like life. These things happen to you in life, and you can't erase them completely, but you can push through them, and then they become something beautiful, and they become part of your story.
Absolutely.
And I feel like my art is, that's what I've learned, is to push through and to practice and to put energy into it. And I think it shows. And I think it shows in my art. It's layered, it's deep, but it's also optimistic and bright, and there's dark spots, and
right. Yeah, I think
that's what I hope comes across in my practice.
Absolutely, the sensitivity of the experiences that we go through, and sometimes because we see nowadays through social media, because we see the artists posting their work and so on, but the stories that are behind the work is really what fascinates me. And as we have been going through this series here in the podcast, now when I look at your art, I have so much more respect and so much more appreciation for it. And I think when we tell our story to the public, I think also creates a deeper connection with the work that we're doing. I don't know if that has been your experience in some way, as we now manage with social media as artists.
Yeah, I agree. And it's difficult because it's also image based, but it is the ones I connect with the most are the ones who share themselves.
Exactly.
And that's a difficult thing. And I've been told, like, I want to see more of you in your social media, and I'm like, oh, right, I guess so, And so, and I have been sharing my story more, and it feels good, and it's part of my art, and then it gives my art another layer.
Exactly. And sometimes, like, when I talk with artists about this idea of how much is too much to share, because some artists have also gone through some very difficult times and things like that. So, Sergio, I'm not comfortable about sharing certain parts of my story. And my answer is always, well, you don't have to. You are the curator of your own story, as you share it with the world. You decide what to share and what not. And to me, the kind of like the dividing line is you share what you are comfortable sharing to a stranger, and anything that you are not, then you don't have to. You
don't have to, right?
And I think that kind of becomes a little bit easier to manage. The even the difficult times that we go through in life.
Right.
As we share them as artists in a world that's so social media driven, it's so important for us as artists to be out there and connecting with an audience.
Right. Yeah. I agree.
So tell me, what has been the response of the public to your work?
Now that I have been sharing my story a little bit, it's been super positive, and I've had people reach out and tell me I am inspiring, and sometimes I feel inspiring, and sometimes I don't feel inspiring.
Right.
I think that's the human condition.
Exactly.
And I think, I've been lucky. I was able to get a online mentoring program that I got to go through 8 weeks, which really helped me discover and ask myself some hard questions and work through what it means to be an artist. Because I guess for all intents and purposes, I'm self-taught. I didn't go to school. I've taken art classes, but I didn't go to school. Yeah. And so it was sort of alien. What is an artist? And it's all kinds of, it's practice.
Exactly.
And I feel like that's sort of my motto is practice makes art. So, and I thought, the other day I was thinking, I was like, what makes, something art and what makes something art, a craft? And I'm all, it's sort of the practice and the time you spend on it and making it part of your daily life. That makes you an artist.
Yeah, I mean,
practice.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. The artist is more than a title, right? Or something more than something we put on Instagram, but it's rather walking in the studio, doing the work that needs to be done.
Right.
On a regular basis.
It's sort of like a job.
Absolutely.
Doing it when you don't feel it or pushing through. And that's another thing. There's times I come in here into my studio, which is where I am, and I do a few things and I'm just like, home on head, just like, that's
right.
not good. And then I'll push through and something great comes.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
And if I could have easily just, and I'm sure I did it in the past, like, that's crap. Like throw it in the trash or do it.
Yeah.
But now lately I'm like, it's my practice. And so I push through or I set it aside and do something else for a while and then come back to it.
Exactly. And I always feel like one piece prepares you for the next, right? It may
exactly.
not, and not every piece is going to be a masterpiece, right? But for sure, every piece, if you push it through, if you get to the end of it, it will prepare you for the next one. And
for the next piece.
And the story continues on. Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome. So, Marci, can you tell us, for anybody who maybe listen to this podcast, maybe going through some hard times right now and kind of cannot see the light at the end of the tunnel, what were some words of advice that can help that person kind of continue making the art even under this situation during this season, right? Because there's always another season coming along the way, and we want to be positive and have hope that there's always another season coming, which will be a much better one.
The hard times, I mean, my physicality and I'm growing older, and I've been a single mom for 5 years to teenagers, which, that's its own story.
That's his own podcast, right?
Yeah. This is, being older, having disability, and all of a sudden being single, it was a hard few years, super hard few years, and lonely, and and I left my artistic side, closed it away for a while, and since I've come back to it, it has really filled a part of me that felt super lonely and empty. And I don't feel that anymore because I've fallen back in love with my artistic practice. And I've learned to call myself an artist because I don't think I gave myself, I'd say I'm creative. And I'm kind of artistic and I'm creative, but I would never say I'm an artist. And now I do.
You didn't own it back then, and now you own it.
Yeah, now I'm beginning to own it.
That's wonderful.
And it helps to have people, on the social media, but people are seeing my art and people are buying my art. And I am just getting started really doing the promoting part of it. And that's starting to come along and things are starting to happen. But just getting that, positive feedback. Yes. Because it's, art is gratifying, but it also can be lonely.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it is both.
So you have to balance that out, right?
Right, exactly. No, that is awesome, and I think that's a great story, Marci. That's those beautiful words again of resilience. So for any of our friends who may be going through that right now, there are seasons in life, and seasons come and go, but just keep making, right? Keep trying, keep making. Sometimes even if it's just on a napkin, that's good enough for that day. And that's I've been on situations where I couldn't do art for months because of physical situations, but just sometimes getting a little notepad and doing some lines here and there, just kept me going. And I think that's what the beauty of this thing that we call art. That's more than the shows, more than the social media and anything else, is the process of getting things done for our own need as creatives, more than for anyone else, but just for our own. And I think that's an amazing thing.
Yes, I agree.
Well, Marci, I want to say thank you so much for being so kind to sharing your story, for sharing your art with us. I would love if you could also share with our friends here, where can we find you on social media? For our friends who want to see your art and connect with you on social media, where can they find you? And if you can share that or anything else that you want to promote or talk about, that would be the right time.
Okay. I have an Instagram called Marsden Artist. That's MARSDEN Artist, Marsden Artist. Mm-hmm. I'm just working on my webpage as we speak.
Awesome.
and hope to start putting better platform down for finding me and buying my art.
Absolutely.
And I'll be doing a couple art fairs in Portland this summer.
Great.
Yeah, so I'm excited about that. Another, and I'm always working on something.
That's right.
Trying to get out there.
That's what we do. Well, Marci, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for your energy, for all you're doing. We appreciate you in the art community. We appreciate all you do. And, I look forward to continue seeing your progress in your Instagram. And when your website is ready, make sure you send me a note so I can check it out as well. Always love that, connecting with artists as well. And I want to thank also all our friends who are listening to the podcast. Thank you so much for your time too. Please do us a favor and share this episode with your friends. You never know when, a word that's said here and there can be the deciding factor for an artist that day to continue moving forward. So thank you to all our friends, and we'll see you at the next level.
Check out our website at www.theartistnextlevel.com, where you will find our podcast library, learn about our upcoming webinars, find resources relevant to your career, and much more. Thanks for listening to today's podcast, and we'll see you at the next level.